This is also the visual that we are showing you from outside one of the hotel at the start of the Joshimath town. Clearly you can see that these are huge cracks.
अभी डेंजर जोन और बफर जोन की सर्वे चल रही है और सर्वे आ जाएगा तो कितने मकान में प्रभावित परिवार कितने हैं, रेजिडेंशियल कितने, कमर्शियल कितने, ये सब डिटेल्स इकट्ठा कर रहे हैं।
दीवारों से पानी आ रहा, पीछे मकान के पीछे भी दुनिया भर का पानी है। ये आप देखो, ये पूरा गीला है, पानी आता है। आज तो मतलब बारिश आएगी तो ये पूरा ही नीचे चले जाएगा।
सभी लोगों से अनुरोध किया है कि ये समय सबको मिलजुल कर जोशीमठ को बचाने का समय है। सब लोग एक टीम के रूप में काम करें।
बिना विशेषज्ञों की सलाह लिए, बिना स्थानीय लोगों को विश्वास में लिए इस तरह की तमाम परियोजनाओं को आपको अभी रोकना पड़ेगा।
Hello everyone, you're watching News Epicenter with me, Maria Shakil. The holy town of Joshimath is in danger, ladies and gentlemen, where over the last few days, locals are paying the price for the ecological imbalance that unmitigated construction has caused in that area. Multiple buildings, over 600, are cracking and experiencing water seepage, as the town now seems to be the sinking town. The entire area, which sees a regular stream of lakhs of tourists all year round, is both landslide and earthquake prone and is seeing buildings on the brink of collapse in at least 9 wards. While all construction has been suspended in the area, one NDRF team and 4 teams of SDRF have been stationed in Joshimath, while 15 relief centers have been set up as well. 81 families living in damaged homes have been evacuated and over 50 more families have to be evacuated. Today, multiple high-level meetings took place, one chaired by the Principal Secretary of the Prime Minister and another by Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami, who met officials of the National Disaster Management Authority. Petitioners have also moved the Supreme Court seeking the urgent declaration of the situation as a national disaster. The pleas are likely to be taken up by the top court tomorrow. The people of Joshimath have blamed the NTPC's Hydel project for their woes, but NTPC has denied any link of their project to the current crisis. Meanwhile, the Congress has accused the state government of ignoring experts and delaying restoration and rehabilitation operations in the area. But this has been a long-standing practice in the hilly areas of our country, where rampant development overlooks the environmental red flags in such delicate areas. The question remains, who is to blame for the evident collapse of this town? When will sustainable development become the norm in such areas? And most importantly, can Joshimath now be saved?
Joshimath, a town built on natural landslide debris in Uttarakhand's Chamoli district, now brought to the brink. The roads have developed large cracks, and so have more than 600 houses due to the ground slowly sinking over the years.
This is one of the house in Joshimath town where we are reporting from. You can see clearly that some of the support, wooden support, so to say, has been given in, in order to give a proper base to this particular area. And also, since you can see the red marks, these are the marks which have been done by the state administration. And these are some of the things which have been done in order for the safe evacuation. That means nobody is allowed to stay here. All the people outside their houses where the marks have been denoted, they have to vacate their house at the earliest.
Around 68 families have been moved to temporary shelters in safer areas.
हमने सभी लोगों से अनुरोध किया है कि ये समय सबको मिलजुल कर जोशीमठ को बचाने का समय है। प्रधानमंत्री जी भी लगातार इसकी समीक्षा कर रहे हैं, लगातार व्यक्तिगत रूप से वो जानकारी ले रहे हैं और उन्होंने हर संभव यहाँ पर मदद का हमको सहायता का आश्वासन दिया कि हर प्रकार से सहायता होगी।
But residents say this issue is not a bolt out of the blue. In fact, it's something that they have been raising for years. Non-stop construction, hydropower projects and widening of national highways have made the slopes of Joshimath highly unstable in the last couple of decades. And then on the 5th of January, things literally reached a breaking point. Work was stopped at NTPC's Tapovan Vishnugad hydel project, following angry protests by residents in the wake of cracks appearing across the town. But the company claimed its 12-kilometer long tunnel had nothing to do with the latest land subsidence.
विशेषज्ञों की सलाह लिए बिना स्थानीय लोगों को विश्वास में लिए इस तरह की तमाम परियोजनाओं को आपको अभी रोकना पड़ेगा। आप पर्यावरणविदों की, विशेषज्ञों की सलाह तो लीजिए।
Experts have recommended shutting down all development and hydroelectric projects in the region and relocating residents.
जोशीमठ के क्षेत्र में अभी हमने नगरपालिका क्षेत्र में और नियर बाय एरियाज में अभी सभी निर्माण कार्य अग्रिम आदेशों तक हमने अभी रोक लगा रखी है।
So is the disaster in Joshimath natural or is it completely man-made?
And let me take that question and explain to you as to why Joshimath is sinking and why is this place, this town so vulnerable. There's weak soil, which is mostly debris of landslides. It is a highly seismic zone that is earthquake prone. That is a big concern. There has been unplanned construction and heavy population pressure on Joshimath. It is also a tourism spot that has grown more than its capacity. So it's really, moving up on its edges. Natural water flow obstructed due to the unrestricted, unplanned construction that this town has seen. There are multiple hydel power projects which have come up, which have disrupted the ecosystem as well. And before I bring in the guests, my colleague Nikhil is on ground zero in Joshimath. Several families have now been evacuated and have been moved to relief camp. Here's that report from a relief camp.
It is freezing cold here in Joshimath, but many of the affected families are forced to live outside their houses because cracks have been reported in those premises. We are currently reporting from the Gurudwara of Joshimath, where one of the relief camp has been prepared by the state and the district administration for the people to be shifted at the safe location. We are entering a particular room where a family has been shifted in view of all the activities which are currently underway in the Joshimath town, so to say. You can see this is one of the room of the Gurudwara. The families are forced to live here, and even the small children in this freezing cold, they are also in trouble because of the same. Let's take a quick view and voice of the people who are here. आप यहाँ पहुँचे, जाहिर सी बात है कि आपका घर जो है उसमें दरारें आई थी। क्या कुछ हुआ था, कब हुआ था, कब यहाँ पहुंचे, कैसे आप यहाँ पे अगर आप बता सकें?
ये 2 तारीख की बात है और लगभग 1-2 बजे रात को थोड़ा आवाज़ जैसे साउंड जैसा आया नीचे से, और तब ऐसा लगा कि कोई किसी ने जो है ब्लास्ट किया होगा। अच्छा। उसके बाद एकदम से अफरा तफरी जैसी मच गई, क्योंकि मोहल्ले में काफ़ी लोग थे। तो ये क्या हुआ, ये क्या हुआ, ये क्या हुआ। फिर लोग जो है कि इकट्ठे हो गए। फिर तब दिन को देखा तो सारा मामला जो है, इधर दरारें आ गई, उधर खेत फट गए और बहुत सारा जो है दिक्कत हुई।
अब घर का क्या होगा, क्योंकि घर उस हालत में तो नहीं होगा कि आप वापस जा सकें, उसका क्या होगा, क्या लगता है आपको?
घर तो हमारा हो चुका है, पूरा तरह से फट चुका है। हम वहाँ पर जा भी नहीं सकती है और बच्चे को भी नहीं ले जा सकते हैं। अब क्या करें, क्या बात तो समझ में नहीं आ रही है हमको। हम बोले तो क्या बोले।
So that sheer helplessness that these families are facing and seeing is evident. Let me bring in the guests at this hour. Harish Rawat is the former Chief Minister of Uttarakhand. We have Neha Joshi, BJP spokesperson. We also have Garima Mehra, Congress spokesperson. C.S. Dubey is a geoscientist and Vice Chancellor of K.R. Mangalam University. Atul Sati is an activist, petitioner of Joshimath. We are also being joined by Sudhir Krishna, former Secretary, Urban Development, Government of India, and the Chairman of Committee on Standard for Smart Cities. Atul Sati, I'm going to come to you first. You wrote several letters, and I have a copy of those letters because you have shared those letters on your Facebook page. These are warnings. आपको किस तरह का जवाब आया था या कोई जवाब ही नहीं आया था सरकार से जब आपने ये चिट्ठियां भेजी थी? तो
नहीं, कोई जवाब नहीं आया। लगातार कहने बोलने के बावजूद नवंबर फर्स्ट वीक में ये शुरू हुआ एक मोहल्ले से जहां 14 घरों में दरारें आ गई थी। तो हमने 16 नवंबर को एक प्रोटेस्ट किया और उस प्रोटेस्ट के जरिए एक ज्ञापन, एक मेमोरेंडम सरकार को दिया और उसमें आपने अगर लेटर पढ़ लिया है तो यही डिमांड थी मुख्यतया कि पूरे जोशीमठ का एक व्यापक सर्वे किया जाए, सर्वेक्षण कराया जाए विशेषज्ञों से, जिससे पता चल सके कि इसकी वजूहात क्या है, क्या कारण है कि ये हो रहा है, ताकि फिर हम कारणों के बाद इसका निदान कर सकें। लेकिन लगातार लिखने बोलने के बावजूद जब ये नहीं हुआ तो फिर दोबारा हमने दिया और ये लगातार हम करते रहे। और जब 5-6 महीने तक कुछ नहीं हुआ और ये दरारें बढ़ने लगी इलाका दर इलाका, क्षेत्र दर क्षेत्र, तो फिर हमको जो है मजबूरन कुछ स्वतंत्र वैज्ञानिकों से ये अपील करनी पड़ी, जो हमारे साथी लोग हैं, डॉक्टर रवि चोपड़ा, डॉक्टर एसपी सती, डॉक्टर नवीन जुयाल को हमने कहा कि वो आए और हमारे इलाके का सर्वेक्षण करके हमको रिपोर्ट दें। जून के महीने में उन्होंने सर्वेक्षण किया और 15-20 दिन में हमको रिपोर्ट दी जी। उसके बाद जो है हम जाकर के आपदा प्रबंधन के सचिव से मिले देहरादून में और उनको ये सब बताया, सुझाव दिए कि भाई कैसे इसको रोका जा सकता है,
क्या रोका जा सकता था,
चेती और उन्होंने एक
क्या इसको रोका जा सकता था, यही सवाल है मेरा। और ये मैं सवाल पूछूंगी
बिल्कुल
सीएस दुबे से। सीएस दुबे जी,
बिल्कुल रोका जा सकता।
1976 में MC मिश्रा कमेटी रिपोर्ट है, उसने भी यही कहा कि जोशीमठ इज सिंकिंग। 2006 में एक और रिपोर्ट है वाडिया इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ हिमालयन जियोलॉजी की, उसने भी कहा जोशीमठ इज सिंकिंग। 2022 की रिपोर्ट है। तो ये क्लियर है कि मल्टीपल सरकार ने बार बार रिपोर्ट दिया और बहुत सारे इंस्टीट्यूट ने ये कहा दैट जोशीमठ इज सिंकिंग, बट ऑल रिपोर्ट्स, हाउ कैन एवरीथिंग बी ओवरलुक्ड? एंड दैट्स व्हाई वी हैव रीच्ड दिस सिचुएशन। Mr. Dubey.
In most of the urban, I am speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, please. Go ahead, sir.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
So I have visited this area many times, and everybody knows that this area is on a very active tectono-geomorphic zone. We have already done some zonation in this area, and we have seen that this area is very, very active. The rocks are very fragile here. There is a glacier debris over here. There is a landsliding. If you see the whole valley itself, it looks like a shallow part of the landslide which has come down, and then there is a debris. Now in this debris you have the big houses which are made. Earlier they were wooden houses, but now they are all metalled and concrete buildings which have come up. Not only 1 floor, 2 floor, it is 5 floor, even 3 floor. I have seen in the today's things that things have developed a lot over there. आपके किसी भी एक उसके ऊपर एक इस तरह के जो कि लूज सैंड हो उसके ऊपर अगर इतना भार डाला जाएगा तो ऑब्वियस है वो सिंक करेगा। इसके अलावा जब वहां पे कोई मैन मेड एक्टिविटीज होंगी, कोई रोड बनेगी और रोड को प्रॉपर नहीं बनाएंगे, टनल बनेंगी, टनल को प्रॉपर उसकी अलाइनिंग नहीं करेंगे, उसके बारे में सोचेंगे नहीं कि इसकी ग्राउटिंग कैसे करनी है, और उसके ऊपर का जो एरिया, स्पेशली जब इतना कुछ कहा गया तो इसके अंदर आज की डेट में बहुत सारी एक्टिविटीज से इसको रोका जा सकता था। जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर हमने इसके ऊपर डिफरेंशियल जीपीएस से इसकी वेलोसिटी देखी होती सिंकिंग की कितनी है और हमने स्लो है या फास्ट है, और उसके साथ साथ हमने अगर इसमें देखा होता कि पीजोमीटर से पानी की क्या सिचुएशन है, पानी कहाँ रुक रहा है, क्या फ्लो है पानी का और क्या सैचुरेशन है इन रॉक्स का फ्लड में, अगर इस सब चीज को ध्यान से देखा होता और उस पर स्टडी के बाद इसके ऊपर प्रॉपर मैनेजमेंट प्लान बना के, जैसे लैंडस्लाइड्स के ऊपर या माइक्रोसिस्मिक हजार्ड या लैंडस्लाइड हजार्ड किए गए, लेकिन उसके ऊपर उसका प्रॉपर.
Okay. Sudhir Krishna, come in on this before I go to the politicians on the panel, Neha and others. If you look at these reports, it's like premonition of sorts. The 2022 report says Joshimath will sink unless excavation for various developmental works is not stopped immediately. I mean, it cannot be more direct than this. There has been rapid urbanization, ever increasing construction work, knowing fully well that this particular region is ecologically very fragile. Then why wasn't it stopped in 1976 when the first warning came?
Well, as I understand, this seems to be a case of disconnect between regional planning and local planning on one hand and major projects on the other hand. These plans are prepared, the regional and local plans are prepared under the state laws, state town planning laws.
Okay.
Whereas the major projects of national highways and the NTPC or NHPC, NHPC and such projects, they come under the government of India and their agencies and their undertakings. So as the law exempts application of state law from central government projects. So this was done with a good intention that central government projects being very large should not be delayed. But unfortunately, in these cases, these projects have ignored the local planning fundamentals. The regional planning of the area, which has been prepared after extensive consultation, it does not encourage a huge investment, huge projects to come up. So these projects come up with local studies, like in that particular location, what is the soil type and so on. But the soil about 10 kilometer away, if there is a problem in Himalayan region 10 kilometer away, also it will impact here. So that this project will not be able to appreciate.
Okay.
So I think a time has come to revisit the framework and give predominance to local and regional planning.
Do we really have that much time? Because this is a man-made disaster. It's almost a town which has begun sinking. Do we have time? Do these people have time?
Now the time has got two factors. Yes, the thing is, what is now going on is relief and rehabilitation. That is all right. That has to be pursued. But we have to stop the development now and revisit the whole thing and redesign the projects, abandon some of the projects and redesign some of the projects, like road projects. We don't have to have very large, wide roads, in these areas. We should have narrow roads only. We should take fewer traffic. We should not encourage 10 crore people are reportedly visiting Uttarakhand every year as tourists. I mean, this is a phenomenal number. This fragile territory of Uttarakhand and surrounding areas cannot handle these number of visitors who do not come by walk.
Let me bring Garima and Neha now. Neha is from the state. Neha, the concern certainly is that there were warnings that were given to the state government, and there were evidences like what happened in June, July of 2021 when cracks in houses similar to those in Joshimath were found in the Raini village, which is just 22 kilometers from Joshimath town. And this is located on the river banks of the confluence of Rishi Ganga and Dhauli Ganga. The question is that this was waiting to happen. If there were multiple letters that were written by likes of Atul Sati, the question is, why did the state government overlook it?
Thank you for having me, Maria. Very good evening to all my fellow panelists. Maria, unfortunately for us in our country, town planning is a concept that seems to be very recent. A classic example is the city of Gurgaon. You know how Gurgaon was conceptualized, and this is right next to the national capital, Delhi. We saw how it was inundated and retrofitted later on. We don't see those many problems. Now, when it comes to Joshimath, taking that example, in 1976 Mishra committee report, it was recommended that no construction over 2 floors should be done in Joshimath.
That's right.
So, I'm not even going to get into the politics of whose government was there in the center, in the state and all of that. We were a part of erstwhile, United Uttar Pradesh. But somehow, because Joshimath is an important town on the way to Badrinath and the Valley of Flowers and Hemkund Sahib, and 40 lakh pilgrims attended the Char Dham Yatra this year. Even if I assume 50% or 40% of them, went to Badrinath or the other, pilgrimage sites that I mentioned. That's the kind of load that Joshimath is bearing. It's also linked to economics, Maria. We have to understand that Joshimath is economically, if you see an average person living in Joshimath, they were well-to-do, they were doing well because they were earning from the businesses, the hotels, the multi-storied hotels that we are seeing on our screens that have developed these huge cracks. I think what happened here was, there were all these warnings, there were all these reports, but, at some point, for the governments, for the residents, for everything, the economics trumped everything. And I think that's what has brought us here to this point. So I think it's a lesson, not just for Joshimath, for Shimla, for Mussoorie, for a lot of these towns that are, built on the debris of landslides. I think it's a long-standing lesson. And I think it's an opportunity that God has given for us that rehabilitate these folks and course correct for the other places.
So you are essentially looking at it from, going ahead. What is the responsibility of the center and the state here? Because certainly right now it is
the state government, it is the central government that is taking the responsibility, and they will rehabilitate the last person.
It's about evacuation, relief and rehabilitation. That is the big concern right now. Garima, here is the BJP spokesperson taking clear, is not getting into the blame game, because if we look at it, it all begins in 1976. There were multiple reports that were overlooked. In those period, there was Congress government. I can ask questions as to what did the Congress government do? What did the then Uttarakhand chief minister of the Congress party do? All those questions aside, do you think right now it is not the time of a political blame game, the kind that the Congress is indulging in?
Maria, thank you for the question. Well, I will start from the last question that you asked the panelists here, that what is going to happen to Joshimath after this? Having attended several debates now and hearing to the eminent environmentalists and geologists, I'm afraid that they are saying that this is irreversible now. And this is a lesson learned for, the cracks are developing in Uttarkashi now, in Tihiri, in Nainital. And I attribute this to definitely you said that there is no blame game, but I have answered to every question you asked, that what was Congress government doing, what was Mr. Harish Rawat doing as a chief minister, I have answered. And if you give me time, I will really satisfy all of you. Well, I attribute this whole situation to the apathy and to the ignorance, sheer ignorance of the present government here. And I have my reasoning. I can substantiate.
So you are essentially saying that Harish Rawat government did nothing wrong, and it is the present Pushkar Dhami government which did everything wrong.
I'll tell you how. In 1976, the Mishra committee recommended that there should be afforestation on a large scale.
Yes.
And they said that
how many trees were planted since then, ma'am?
No, I'll just give you one reasoning. Dr. Ravi Chopra headed in 2019, there was a committee constituted by the Supreme Court, and Ravi Chopra had to resign later on because his recommendations were not heard of, they were not acknowledged. They said that the Helang-Marwari bypass should not be constructed. If at all it is necessary to get constructed, then the traffic should be one way. The people going to Badrinath should take the Joshimath route, and while coming back, they should take the Helang bypass route. So that was not heard of, and lastly, disappointed, he had to resign. I spoke to him personally on telephone.
Neha, respond to that charge, and then I bring in Harish Rawat.
Mr. Harish Rawat, during his chief ministership, he made Harela.
Garima ji, Maria asked me a question. Let me respond to it. I think she'll give you your time.
Harela festival, which is a local festival of Uttarakhand.
चलिए हम उसका सवाल हम हरीश रावत जी से पूछ लेंगे. गरिमा जी, आपने जो रेजिग्नेशन की बात की है, वो जरा उसका जवाब नेहा जोशी दे दें. नेहा?
नहीं, मैं अपनी बात कंप्लीट तो कर लूं मारिया जी कि 2005 में मनमोहन सिंह गवर्नमेंट ने एनडीए में फॉर्म किया. उससे पहले आपदा के बाद जो है रिहैबिलिटेशन होता था, रेस्क्यू कार्य होते थे। लेकिन 2005 की मनमोहन सिंह गवर्नमेंट ने बोला नहीं, आपदा को कम करने के लिए, उसमें लोगों की जान माल के नुकसान को कम करने के लिए वी हैव टू।
So why wasn't the entire construction activity, why weren't all the Hydel projects then put on hold? If you were really concerned about it, then everything should have been put on hold. That did not happen. Yes, go ahead.
Eminent institutes like the Wadia Institute, which is based here in Uttarakhand.
Yes.
They have on record said that there's no conclusive evidence to prove that any of these Hydel projects have affected what is happening in Joshimath. 1976 की रिपोर्ट में है कि ये होना शुरू हो गया है। क्या स्पीड है, क्या रहेगा, उसके बारे में बात नहीं करी गई है। Since the day this has started, this is a difficult time for Uttarakhand, Maria. Let me just state that, And I think what's important is that these families need to be taken care of, which the state and the center are doing. The Congress, on the other hand, is trying to play out. They have blamed the Rishikesh-Karan-Prayag railway line. We have waited for decades. And finally, when it comes to Uttarakhand, they are playing politics. 100 kilometers दूर है वहाँ से, जोशीमठ से.
हरीश रावत जी,
they've gone to the extent of targeting
सवाल ये उठ रहा है कि अगर आपकी सरकार ने कुछ एक्शन लिया होता और कुछ स्टेप्स लिए होते तो शायद ये सिचुएशन अभी नहीं होता जो अभी जोशीमठ में हो गया है।
क्या कहें, जो भाजपा की सरकार है उनकी सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता जो है कॉमन सिविल कोड है, फिर धर्मांतरण का बिल है। उनकी प्राथमिकताएं कुछ और हैं। लोगों का जीवन बचाना उनकी प्राथमिकता में नहीं है।
और आपकी प्राथमिकता
आप इससे अंदाज लगा लीजिए, 1 तारीख से चीजें खतरनाक होती है। नेशनल मीडिया चिल्लाने लगा 3 तारीख को, सब जगह आ रहा है। और आपदा प्रबंधन सचिव, राज्य के आपदा प्रबंधन सचिव 2 दिन पहले वहां गए हैं और चीफ मिनिस्टर के जाने के 1 दिन पहले वहां गए। आपदा प्रबंधन सचिव जिनकी सबसे प्रमुख जिम्मेदारी होनी चाहिए थी, आप इससे अंदाज लगा लीजिए कि हम कहाँ पे खड़े हैं। और चीफ मिनिस्टर को कहना चाहता अपने नागरिकों से, डरिए मत, मैं तुम्हारे साथ खड़ा हूँ। आप अब हर कोई वहां विजिटर के तौर पर जा रहे हैं, मंत्रीगण, और विजिटर के तौर पर लौट करके आ जा रहे हैं।
जिस तरह का प्रबंधन किया है सरकार ने, क्या आपको लगता है दैट इज सफिशिएंट, जो इंतजाम किया गया है फॉर इवैक्यूएशन एंड एवरीथिंग? सर,
ये बहुत ही नाकाफी है, बहुत ही है ही नहीं इंतजाम जो है। आप देखिए, आपने खुद 600-650 घरों को खतरनाक डिक्लेयर किया है, दरारें हैं उसमें डिक्लेयर किया है। और आपने अभी तक केवल 34 या 36 लोगों को वहां से सेफ स्थानों पर भेजा है, वो भी कुछ लोग अपने आप चले गए हैं। अच्छा, लोगों को जोशीमठ में ऊपर नीचे बहुत जाना पड़ता है सामान निकालने के लिए, और सामान सड़क तक पहुंचाने के लिए ही लोगों को 1,000-2,000 रुपया खर्च करना पड़ रहा है। आपने 5,000 रुपया अहेतुक सहायता, कहते हैं एडहॉक हेल्प जो है, लोगों को दी है 5,000 रुपया। क्या आजकल 5,000 रुपये में क्या होता है, क्या है? तो ये ऐसा लगता है जैसे गवर्नमेंट ने स्थिति की गंभीरता का आकलन ठीक से नहीं किया, जबकि स्थिति यह है कि आपको पूरा एक नया जोशीमठ बसाना पड़ेगा। मैंने लोगों से पता किया था और मुझे आइडिया भी है, जोशीमठ से बिल्कुल लगी हुई कई सेफ जमीनें हैं जो सरकार की जमीनें हैं, जिनमें इस तरीके की कोई स्थिति खतरा नहीं है। तो वहां आप लोगों को जमीन अलॉट करिए और यहाँ की जमीन का उनका मुआवजा बना करके, उनके प्रॉपर्टीज का, उनके घर का, जो किराएदार इत्यादि हैं, दूसरे लोग हैं, सबको कंपनसेशन दीजिए।
Okay. Let me go back to the experts on the panel. Atul Sati, here you heard from the former Chief Minister. Of course, there is blame game that is happening, but right now it's about saving lives and perhaps also saving Joshimath. Can the town be saved, or is the crisis irreversible?
अब नगर को बचाना, शहर को बचाना तो बहुत मुश्किल लग रहा है, क्योंकि कुछ 2 दिन पहले हमारी मुख्यमंत्री उत्तराखंड से मुलाकात हुई, हमारी वार्ता हुई जोशीमठ में उनसे। तो वहाँ बैठे हुए जो गढ़वाल के कमिश्नर थे, उन्होंने हमारे सामने कहा मुख्यमंत्री के सामने कि 40% शहर हमको खाली करना पड़ेगा, 40% शहर नष्ट हो जाएगा। अब जोशीमठ कोई सर्कल तो है नहीं और कोई स्क्वायर भी नहीं है कि कहीं से आपने केक की तरह 40% काट लिया, ऐसा तो है नहीं। ये तो एक पहाड़ी ढाल है, अलकनंदा के बाएं तट पर ये एक ढाल पर बसा हुआ है और भूस्खलन का मलबा है। अगर एक चीज एक तरफ का हिस्सा इसमें जाएगा तो बाकी शहर भी भर भरा कर गिर पड़ेगा। दूसरी तरफ प्रधानमंत्री के जो ये सेक्रेटरी साहब की मीटिंग में हमारे यहाँ के जो चीफ सेक्रेटरी हैं वो कह रहे हैं कि 300 मीटर हिस्सा जो है 300 मीटर बिड्थ का हिस्सा चला जाएगा। अब ये समझ में नहीं आ रहा है 300 मीटर कौन सा एरिया का नाप होता है। हम तो देख रहे हैं कि ये कोई एक हिस्से में नहीं है, ये तो अलग अलग हिस्सों में दरारें हैं। एक हिस्सा जो है ऊपर से लेकर के लगभग नीचे 1 किलोमीटर नीचे नदी तक जो है वो पूरा नीचे जाता हुआ दिख रहा है, फिर बीच का हिस्सा जा रहा है, फिर उधर का हिस्सा जा रहा है, तो पूरा शहर इससे पूरा नगर प्रभावित है। और अब आपको हमने मुख्यमंत्री जी को भी कहा कि लार्ज नंबर ऑफ इवैक्यूएशन आपको करना पड़ेगा, बड़े पैमाने पर लोगों को सुरक्षित स्थानों पर ले जाना पड़ेगा। और ऐसा प्लान जो है बनाना इतनी देर में टू लेट इट हैज बीन डन।
So it's very late that we are looking at. Then Sudhir Krishna
कहा है एक लास्ट जरा अंतिम बात, इसलिए हमने कहा है, इसलिए हमने सुझाव दिया कि आपको एक बड़ी टीम की जरूरत है और वो आप तब बना सकते हैं जब आप एक हाई पावर कमेटी का गठन करें और उसमें जो हमारी संघर्ष समिति है, स्थानीय लोग हैं, उनको भी शामिल करें, अधिकार प्राप्त जो है ये कमेटी बनाएं। तब आप जो है इतने लंबे पैमाने पर, ये बड़े पैमाने का इवैक्यूएशन आप जो है राहत पुनर्वास का काम कर पाएंगे।
So what is evident now is that this is a man-made disaster, Mr. Krishna. We are looking at timelines now. There have been reports, multiple studies that have been done, and all seem to have suggested that this would happen. Now we have reached a stage of evacuation. It is being taken, the entire situation is now being monitored by the Prime Minister's office with Dr. P.K. Mishra intervening as well. But the question now is, when we say we are looking at timeline, where will these people go? It's about their lives, livelihood, everything almost coming crashing.
देखिए, जहाँ तक issue, there are two aspects to it. One is the planning part and second is the rehabilitation part of the affected people. So the planning means all the reports which we have discussed, whether it is Mishra Committee report or Wadia Institute report and so on, they are a bit old reports. Now the situation has changed, and it is high time to make a fresh study right now. Start a study, and study should not take too long because technology is available now. Now we have got the past reports, which is the background, which will provide the background. We have got satellite imagery. We have got many other studies reports available. The data available. All that put together, immediately the present position onward, a fresh study is required, which should be completed in 6 months' time. On one hand,
6 months' time at all, Mr. Krishna. Do we have 6 months' time?
No, 6 months time means we can compress it also depending on how the work progresses. Okay. But people living there and entire energy of the system is now, as I notice, everybody is talking about relief and rehabilitation. So that also should be closed. Discussion should close and people should be moved out of that area, because building after building is cracking and collapsing, and we cannot be taking one step after the other step in removing people as and when the buildings are cracking. And so we have to see that something is happening and something is going to happen for most of the buildings, as I see the picture, as I see the reports. So people in large scale should be relocated in a systematic manner, and they should be provided for, like a rehabilitation. When a project is taken up, when a large irrigation project or a hydropower project is taken up, rehabilitation takes place. It is on that war footing we have to do.
It is almost like that this was waiting to happen. There were multiple warnings, there were multiple red flags. Were they ignored or overlooked? Yes, they were. Thank you so much for your time, Neha Joshi.